Okay, we start with independence. And this has to do with this man we saw there in a high age already. And he did something what was very special at that time in Germany and would be very special in Korea today. He decided to give the company not to his son. And he had a son. And he loved his son, of course, yeah. But he was convinced if this company should see 100 years or more, this is the first thing that can go wrong. As your son is, how can I say, anyway, a wonderful person and whatever, but not necessarily a good manager, right? I mean, that is, would just be, how can I say, an incident if he's really brilliant as a manager. And he was driven in Germany. He could see at that time that companies were lost very often second to third generation or third to fourth generation. As you know, those guys, they grew up with a high living standard already and are not such hungry, might be, as the founder, and behave then completely different. Yeah. And there is then a high risk to lose the things. So in his last will, he gave us, how can I say, a headache, as that was very, very complicated, what he wrote down, how this company should be sorted. And the solution then finally was to go into such a foundation. So Bosch itself is principally a foundation, and not a foundation for tax reasons, okay? That was not the idea. He was driven by that this foundation should finance itself, more or less. That means we have a few shareholders, but not very important. And we have nearly no bank money. We finance ourselves over 100 years now. So we have only contact to banks due to relationship management, but we don't need the money. What is, in some time, very convenient. And I don't have anything against other models, yeah, don't understand me wrong, yeah. Mainly this is done completely different, but for us it's working very, very well, many, many years now. And then he was a philanthrope, I can say. Even stubborn, could be very harsh within the family, this guy. You could see it a bit, I think, in the face, right? But he was driven by doing good things. And so he said, well, the foundation every year, certain amount has to go in to all these nice things, especially connecting countries, understanding each other. And what we do is we put about, I don't know, 60, 70 million euros a year into this foundation for charity. And the rest is refinancing our innovations, our people, our invest. So that is the model. There are many, many specialists, experts saying this cannot work for a long time for such a big company. But they tell us 50 years now. Yeah? So we just hope we can go ahead like this. Okay. Now coming to the core, I would say. As I do not know whether you have a big understanding of the automotive industry. There are very fancy cars, of course, yeah, and especially, I would say more your parents, they loved to buy a car. I hear more and more, young generation is not so much interested anymore, yeah. What is fine, things change. But if you look at those car companies, and we have a very, very successful here in Korea, of course, with Hyundai Kia, you must principally know they don't do the innovation. And that is a surprise very often to engineers. So the innovation comes from companies like us, not just us, unfortunately. We have huge competitors, yeah. But you know, all these, let me say, new systems functions, that is usually always coming from a supplier, from a big tier 1 supplier. And the car manufacturers have a good marketing department, and they weld a bit the steel plates and other things, yeah. But we do the rocket science in cars, I would say. And from the beginning, this was our big, big strength. And it's not just these innovative technologies, it's not just new things, new ideas, this automated driving car. It is cost as well, yeah. So cost innovation. How can you bring with new electronics cost down that was so expensive in mechanical systems, for instance, such kind of things. So we have a big, let me say, semiconductor and sensor area. To give you one example, and I come to this technology, we invented, that was in the 90s, an anti-skid program for cars, yeah, where you recognize car is not following the driver's wish. And this is horrible accidents, you know. If the car comes then across, turns around, and the other crashes in the side, you have no very short protection zone, so that is a killer, yeah. And for this system, we needed a very special sensor, so-called jaw rate sensor, who identifies that this is turning, and that was only existing in the aviation industry at that time, for $20,000 one system or so. I mean, you cannot put it in the car if the system is already more expensive than the whole car, right? And so we brought that down in the first step, and then miniaturized micromechanic system. That is just a small chip in today's time. And based on this, we built many other sensors, and you have one with you, I think, quite sure, if you have at least a Samsung or LG smartphone. So if you turn around and the picture turns, that are the sensors from our house. Good, what we do to protect us a bit, but you see here 40,000 researchers, 89 locations, and that gives an indication we are really global for decades, I would say. Give one example, China, we have now 40,000 people already, we'll have very fast 50,000. So we are everywhere, where cars are built at least. And the innovation is a backbone for us, where we think as long as we are really innovative, but that is, as the dynamics increase, not so easy, that's clear, to be somewhere ahead of the pack. But as long as we are innovative, as we have been in the past, that is one of the big protections we can have and support to survive the decades to come. Okay. Yeah, this gives you an overview about the automotive industry, the cars we are in. So there is I think it's hard to find a car where we are not in. And that is another big thing. The innovation, the diversity you can get if you are a big player. To be not dependent on one or two, you know, that is very, very dangerous. As they can blackmail you, or they can run into problem. And as long as you are more or less everywhere, you can always win with the winners. You are always at the right place automatically. What we try with regions as well, that is clear. Europe does not look very good at the moment, as you know. So we were very happy that we are strong in Asia, where now just the growth is. And we are preparing for Africa. But you learn if you look at Africa, but I'm sure you discussed this already, that Europe lost more or less Africa as a European industry. Much too slow. China is in there everywhere. And that is amazing, yeah. The Europeans are not so fast usually with such things. Okay? I don't now touch everything, but that were just some breakthrough innovations we made over the years. This is more or less, you would not have the cars in Seoul today without this one. That was the first time when we brought electronics to the engine management. And this reduced the emissions about 98%. So if you think you would have cars as we had it in the 60s or beginning of 70s, you would not see your hand, you know, ahead of your eyes. Yeah. The emissions were just incredible. So this was a very, very big thing. ABS as well, I would say, as is anti-lock, where the brakes, you know, on snow, for instance, you hit the brake and the wheels are turning and not locking. If they lock, you cannot steer anymore front. If they lock at the back, even worse, the car skids, turns around. So that was a very important milestone, okay? And we have some others. I mentioned this system, yeah, that is saved 10,000s of lives, I would say. Yeah, that's a car. I mean, you have physical limits, yeah. I mean, when a car turns, it's on snow. You can only get it back on track if the physics allows. But within the physics, this is a great system. I need to say that as I was working on that as a system engineer, you know. And many other things. I don't go in. This is our slogan, Invented for Life, where we mean the things we do is environmental, many of it, and the rest mainly is safety. saving lives directly by airbag, by this ABS, ESP and other functions. And there is much more to come leading up to automated driving finally. And if you would have a car driving on its own, we know you could reduce accident rate by 90%. So it's mainly us causing the accidents. Question, and I touched it already, what about the last 10%? Who is guilty in this case? When machines, computers cause an accident, but we come to that. We really made big steps to be clean, more economical, safer, and we're working a bit in this area as well if you think about seat adjustment, window lifts, all of that has to do with electrical motors and electronics. Okay? Coming to the farsightedness, and that has now to do a bit, or is directly linked, I would say, to this independence. So if you pay, and we do that sometimes, for a new invention, if you pay in over 10 years $1 billion, no shareholder would allow that, you know. I mean, you want a return on your money in time. But you can do that if you finance the company yourself. Then you can be driven by other things. I mean that, how can I say, very often just fails as well, yeah? I mean, all the inventions, not all is becoming a success. But if it becomes a success, then it's huge what you can get back over 20, 30 years. And very often this is enabling us to be a bit ahead of some other companies. I mean, sorry, we are not ahead in all areas, unfortunately. I would love, but as I mentioned, we have good competitors as well. I touched just one, I think. We saw many of those things. This predictive emergency braking is something nice. That is on the road already. And that is really avoiding heavy injuries as well. What the system is doing is mainly based on radar sensors today, but we will now have stereo video sensors, all such things. If you drive and the system recognizes the algorithm, there will be an accident. Speed too high, you are too close, there will be an accident. Then the brake is actuated without your doing whatever to the utmost pressure, and it's a kind of emergency braking is starting. And that means you will have a damage, but by far not as severe as without this brake. Next step we are working on, that's clear, is to avoid completely the accident. That will start with pedestrians. We showed that in the Frankfurt Motor Show just this autumn. That means if a pedestrian, I mean that needs of course physical limits as well, but if a pedestrian is running across, you know, on the road, what very often happens and very often is fatal, then the system breaks down to zero and can avoid such pedestrian crashes. Okay? Should I go deeper? No, I talked a bit about pedestrian, yeah, that is somewhere clear. Okay? So, and now this is funny. Where are we today? Not so difficult. Where are we today? Are you here? So we are here somewhere. And if you look at this, it is more the most stupid car you can have of all three variants. Yeah? If you think about horses and you sit there fully drunken, falling asleep, you have still a chance that the horses, without making an accident, bring you home. Right? So 120 years ago, we were more advanced than today. The horsepower is a bit lower than we have today, but that makes it even more dangerous. And then the future, and there could be the combination of some horsepower and capabilities with the smartness. And this is the world to come, but I think we have that on the next. I know we have where is the movie coming later? Okay. Then we go to the next one. This is more or less, I talked a bit about what we have today on the road is this automatic cruise control, yeah, one radar sensor. That's already 10 years on the road, I would say, where you give on the motorway 100 or whatever is allowed, and the system is automatically braking and accelerating due to the traffic situation. That is an old thing already. Traffic jam assist, and what we see here, sensor data fusion. That means you have various sensors, radar, video, whatever, and then you need to combine the signals, what is not easy. Yeah? You have to have complicated algorithm that really give a picture of what happens around. And this would be a very good thing for Seoul. As you know, then you could more or less in the morning, you are in this traffic jam, and the car is just following. Braking down, accelerating, following, but does not steer, yeah, as of now. But you have a chance to look at your smartphone, for instance, right? Send some messages. Pilot has already a 360 degrees and can to a certain degree steer already, and then goes up to fully automated driving. Okay. We were, and that looks a bit special, I would say, right, this car? One of our test cars. We were a bit shocked, and that's already a couple of years ago, when Google announced they have a car running fully automated in California. I think it's already 5 years ago or so. As we always thought, this must be done by us, you know. And we had somewhere, how can I say, in our mindset, a limitation. We were so impressed by legislation. We thought no country will allow computers to drive on public roads. Yeah, we could not see that anything is moving in the legislation. But Google was able, in California, to get the allowance, and we're running a first car, yeah, and we couldn't believe. Then we had various things to do. First, to understand what is Google doing. Will they become now a competitor to us in the automotive industry? And we needed some time for us to really understand, even it's not so difficult. Any guess what Google might want? As you know, I know that they can earn money much easier than in the automotive business. This is not an easy business we are in. This is a price war, more or less. What they want to do is the drivers should have more time for the smartphones and pets to link into Google. You know, this is hours in Seoul, yeah? So you can, if you commute 2 hours a day, or some people 3, and they don't have to drive themselves, and they can go into the Google search engine. This is all money, direct money for Google. So it's a bit a different approach, but anyway, we started then very, very fast to catch up. As we think now this will come, as we saw California did it. So we expect a solution on the law side, let me say. And we have now cars running in California as well. We have some development center in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto. But this one is running in Germany. So even the Germans allowed us now to run those cars. And they look a bit nicer meanwhile, yeah. This sensor is all integrated now, this famous top sensor. And we are preparing the cars. Okay, and we have a small clip. It's a bit an advertising clip, but I know all the people there. That's no actors. That really is the development team.
Imagine yourself getting into your vehicle in the morning and you just press the button and say, "Take me to work."
This is really like science fiction. It's the future that we're working on.
First time you drive in a car and it drives on its own, it's a very special situation.
She was working in my development team 10 years
Driving the car myself now. As soon as I want to switch to automated mode, I press this button. And now the car is driving itself. Anytime I feel I want
Slightly
to
scared the lady, right? If you look at her face.
immediately I start the car.
The first thing is that the vehicle has eyes.
To see 360 degrees surround view,
It knows where it is located from a map which it receives from a cloud-based server.
So we basically take information from sensors and we integrate them all into a common map where we can determine if there's a car next to us or if there's a car to the side of us. Then using this information, we basically plan a route through that area, which is we call a plan. That plan gets transferred to the low levels of the car, the braking and the acceleration. We say we want to steer here, we want to brake here, we want to accelerate.
accidents are caused by human failure. So a forward-thinking vehicle which takes over dedicated driving task would make the vision of accident and injury-free driving a reality.
It will totally change the way we use our infrastructures and our roads, because now we can have cars running closer together, be more fuel efficient because they can drive optimally, much, much better than a human ever could.
You can use your time on a more productive way. Driving to the work, you can use the time to read the newspaper, to look at your emails, to call your colleagues, and be prepared when you arrive.
Bringing the people the benefits of automated driving in comfort and safety is good enough motivation for Bosch to go into this business. This technology is one of the most fascinating technologies. It's really cutting edge.
I can't even begin to think about the way it's going to change the world in the future. It's going to be unbelievable.
Well, so might be you start to think that you want a car now, okay? We are through already. I copied this from the Korean government, this eagle, you see? When we had G20 here, they were showing the eagle as one nice example how to react fast on changes. Flying very high, have the whole picture, then focus on something, shooting down, grabbing it. That is how we would like to be, but still a way to go, I think. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.